Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Monday, and all of our guests today, including Paul Dolan of Apple TV, Whitecaps coverage, standing by. Brought to you by Basant Motors. It's March mayhem at Basant all month long. Choose either no GST, 4.99% financing on 2020 and newer vehicles, or a $2,000 trade-in bonus. Get all the info at Basant Motors, BASANT Motors.com. Just ahead of Paul Dolan. Again, the news, Canucks and Vegas starting in goal tonight for the Canucks. Arturs Silovs. Casey DeSmith will be backup. Speaking of goaltenders, we bring in Paul Dolan from Apple TV. Whitecaps shut out TFC 4-0 Saturday at BC Place. Caps 4-1-1 after 6 matches. First place in the MLS Western Conference. Paul, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm good. The Whitecaps are good. Everyone's good. How are you guys doing?
Good. Just your thoughts on the Canucks not starting Casey DeSmith tonight, instead going with the kid Silovs.
I did use the word goaltending instead of goalkeeping on the last broadcast, so my mind's there oftentimes. And my son will be the emergency backup on Wednesday night, so that's always.
Okay, explain that. Sorry, we'll get to soccer in a second, but your son is an accomplished goaltender, and he's been an emergency backup before.
Yeah, he's been, I think, 6 or 7 times this year, and in fact, he's had to go down to the dressing room 3 times, which he didn't have to in the previous couple of years he's done it. But it's kind of a thrill, you're in the stands watching the game, and the next thing you're down, dressed in your pads, ready to go in if there's one more injury on either side. So he'll be doing that on Wednesday night against Arizona. It could be that Arizona's goalkeepers or goaltenders go down and then need to go in.
Yeah, he's an E-bug. How far did he get? What level did he get to, Paul?
He plays at SFU.
Okay.
In their college.
Okay.
Team, yeah.
There you go. Okay. Soccer. That's why you're here. 4-1-1 for the Whitecaps. First place in the MLS West. What's going right for this side?
Their defensive structure has been upgraded, I'd say, from last year. And, that's kind of the boring answer, is that they're much more difficult to score on. The second thing is that they're finishing their chances. I don't know if you remember the start of last year, they were creating all sorts of chances. Brian White was snake bitten. Ryan Gauld couldn't score. And they weren't getting the results to start the year. They just had 1 win in the first 6. But they had created a lot of chances. This year, they're finishing their chances over their expected. So they're being clinical when they're given the opportunity. And then if I were to sum it up in one word of what's going right, it's the Fafa factor. And Fafa Picault, who has come into the Whitecap team. When the Whitecaps made these 2 signings of Damir Krylak at 35 years old now and Fafa Picault at 33, veteran, experienced MLS presence, which you always like to have in your team, but didn't necessarily think these players would have an immediate impact on the field in terms of goal and scoring production. Fafa Picault has back-to-back, or he did coming into the Toronto game, 1 goal, 1 assist games, and then he backed it up with another goal and could have had a second if he hadn't been nice to Ranko Veselinovic and let his header go in off the post, or his deflected corner could go off the post instead of tapping it in himself. So he's been a revelation. The team has really come together. Players like Alessandro Schopp have really lifted their game. And I think the fact that there are players competing for spots right now means that there's competition for places, and it's pushing every player to be better than they were last year.
Paul, 14 goals and second in Major League Soccer right now. But what's more impressive is 9 different goal scorers. It's nice to have that depth.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. No other team, I think, has that breadth of scoring. And Benny says it all the time, right? And you've heard him say it on your show as well, that the team is the leader. And I think nothing exemplifies that more than every player chipping in offensively. And like I said, too, defensively, I've said it time and again about Ryan Gauld. I mean, what he does defensively on that side of the ball, especially for a designated player, you don't see it from any of the other star players in the league to that degree anyway. And so when he leads by example, everyone else is doing the same thing. And it really is a solid group of not just 11 right now, but it's the 18. Players are chipping in with different scoring. You mentioned where they are in terms of goals scored, and their goal difference is by far the best in the league as well.
Yes.
They're 5 up on the next best in the West.
24,000 plus, 6 straight crowds of 22,000 plus. How nice to see the BC Place getting filled up, because that wasn't the case many months ago.
No, it makes such a difference. There's the atmosphere is there. And the other thing too is that when you're winning and you're scoring and the crowd's excited and into it, it's spurring you on to do more.
Yep.
Let's be honest. Like, let's say last year they're playing Toronto. It's unlikely that the crowd would be too much lower because, you always want to see TFC and you always want to beat TFC. But with 25,000 the other night, after the Whitecaps score 90 seconds in, spurred on by a big crowd, they go and score not that long after again. And I think a lot of it is because of the lift from the crowd. Whereas you're right, Rick, last year, they were getting some games where there's 15,000 people. So 10,000 extra bodies in that stadium makes a big difference. And the players always say it. It sounds like a cliche, but it really does get them more motivated when they hear more support behind them and that type of environment at BC Place.
Vanni Sartini admitted, Paul, that he went all out to get his Toronto area born and raised players on the pitch over the weekend, including Raposo and Ahmed. Do you understand that thinking?
I love it. You know what he said to us before the game too? We did in our stand-up ahead of the Apple game in the MLS 360, they call it, and in the preview show. He says, "I want to kill them. This game means so much to me, beating TFC." Remember, he had the tattoo put on his arm after they won the Canadian Championship a couple years ago against Toronto FC. And so he really wants to make that kind of a statement game for his team against the Canadian rival, and to get the Canadian, not just Canadian-based players on there, but the Toronto-born players on there. Like you said, Ryan Raposo, Levante Johnson came in as well. Ali Ahmed starts against the coach that gave him his first cap with Canada. So there was something in that as well. And of course, John Herdman's son, Jay, plays in the Whitecap organization as well. So there was a lot of, obviously with John coming back into town, there was a lot of storylines going into that game.
I wasn't aware of the tattoo, but I'm glad you said arm, Paul. Hey, Messi, he played and scored for Inter Miami on the weekend. Significant around these parts because Inter Miami and Messi playing at BC Place, scheduled to play at BC Place May 25th. You, like a lot of people, were you worried about, I know long way out, but were you a little worried about his health?
I've been one who thinks that he will play here, but who knows? Because you're right, it is still, May 25th, so we're a month and a half away. He has missed more time to start this year than we have seen, or it's only been, half a year that he was with Inter Miami last year. But he played almost every game, I think every game of Leagues Cup, and then missed a couple in the regular season. And he's missed a few regular season games, got back in the CONCACAF Champions Cup at one point. I really hope he's going to be here. I'm still going glass half full. I think that for the game, obviously it all depends on his actual fitness, truthfully. Yep. But if there's a choice for him to make, going all the way to Vancouver, playing on turf, there's 55,000 sellout stadium, build the game in Canada as well as the USA. It's about, what you're doing for MLS as a whole. I still think he's going to be here, but it is a bit of a fingers crossed because you never know, just based on a player who's 36 years old and playing a lot of games right now.
All right, Dolan, thanks for this. Appreciate it. Good times for the Whitecaps.
Yes, looking forward to talking to you again. Take care, guys.